memo Whitaker describes that Intelligence Committee Republicans published in February 2018. The memo explained some of the major problems we'd found with the FISA warrant on Carter Page, namely that the FBI relied on unverified accusations from the Steele dossier. The memo was denounced by the entire mainstream media, fueled by the DOJ's publication of a letter to me claiming they were unaware of any wrongdoing related to the Page FISA, that it would be extraordinarily reckless of us to publish the memo without letting the DOJ and FBI see it first, and warning me of the damaging impact the memo's publication could have on our national security and our intelligence sharing with allies. Of course, the only thing damaged by these revelations was the reputation of the DOJ and FBI officials who exploited the ridiculous Steele dossier as an excuse to spy on an American citizen. As Whitaker notes, in late 2019, the DOJ Inspector General published a report on the Carter Page FISA that found a stunning degree of malfeasance, especially involving their use of the Steele dossier. One FBI lawyer even doctored an email to disguise the fact that Carter Page had cooperated with another U.S. intelligence agency. The FISA court then banned numerous agents involved in the Page FISA from making any further submissions to the court. Remember, these agents' work had been championed by the media for nearly 3 years while their innocent victim, Carter Page, was widely portrayed as a treasonous Russian asset. In fact, the collusion hoax birthed a whole strange neo-McCarthyite atmosphere among the left where anyone who wouldn't go along with the hoax was ritually denounced as a Russian puppet. I was not immune to the attacks. I had publicly advocated a stronger response to Russian aggression since 2014, and in April 2016, I argued on national television that our biggest intelligence failure since 9/11 was our failure to predict Putin's plans and intentions. My hawkish position on Russia has never changed. Yet, when I began arguing that the Steele dossier was absurd and that there was no evidence of Trump officials colluding with Putin, I suddenly began getting attacked as a Russian asset by Democrats, left-wing groups, the media, and an army of Twitter bots. After we voted to publish our FISA abuse memo, NBC News and MSNBC analyst John Heilman asked an Intelligence Committee Democrat on television, "Congressman Nunes, your chairman, it is suggested not by me but by people who follow these matters closely, could possibly be someone who's been compromised by the Russians. Is that something you consider a possibility?" Being denounced as a Russian stooge for revealing abuses of the FISA process was one of the many surreal elements of this whole episode. The collusion hoax revealed the total corruption of the mainstream media. They were all in on the hoax from the beginning, and they freely abandoned basic journalistic standards and ethics to perpetuate the collusion narrative. Whitaker experienced this firsthand. "I was well aware of the partisan politics and the ideological bias of the press," he writes, "but I had no idea the extent to which they would go to damage this president, me, and anyone who supported him or was willing to serve in his administration. I still thought there were some fundamental rules of fairness that almost everyone in positions of power and responsibility followed. I freely confess now, I was wrong." There is some irony that the collusion hoax ultimately imploded with the report and subsequent testimony of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. The Democrats, the media, and the deep state all counted on him to end the Trump presidency, and it's clear that's what his team aimed to do. But as Whitaker details, they couldn't create Russian collusion out of nothing, and after a year-long FBI investigation followed by the 2-year-long Mueller probe, nothing is exactly what they had. Despite the raft of leaks and bombshell media stories about Mueller's team supposedly gathering all sorts of irrefutable collusion evidence, there were signs they had no such evidence even before they issued their report. For example, there was Mueller's February 2018 indictments of the Russian troll farm that had meddled in the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Although the indictments, some of which have now been withdrawn, went into great detail about how the conspirators planned and executed their operation, the Mueller team did not allege that any Americans had conspired with them. Even before that, there was the Peter Strzok